Hello and how you doing? And welcome back to Two Jagoffs. I am your host, Austin Carnes. And here on the podcast today, ladies and gentlemen, we are bringing on yet again another very special guest. Like I said before, Sundays feel like it is interviews. It's just going to be a new guest every single week. And this week, I got an interesting guest. He is running for mayor of Carnegie, my hometown, where I'm from. And I mean, let's be honest, he's pretty much uncrowned mayor at this point. Please welcome Sam Bigham to the podcast. Sam, thank you so much for joining me on Two Jagoffs today.
Thanks for having me, Austin. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for making the trip down here. I mean, it's about the same amount for me because we're both in Carnegie.
Yeah, pretty much the same, yeah.
Not that far. But how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Austin. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's very hot outside.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hot.
Well, I guess I didn't feel it. I don't know. Used to the heat.
Used to the heat? Are you Italian?
No, I do get that sometimes, though, but Irish and English.
Irish and English. Okay, I'm Irish and Italian, so like I get 50-50. You get either the sunburnt Irish or you get the tan Italian. So it depends on where you're at. So I wanted to start off this interview today kind of talking about where you're from and how you're getting to where you are now. And I feel like where we should start is with Carleton.
Sure.
Carleton is actually your alma mater, and so is mine. We both went there. You're 2 years older than me.
We ran track together.
We did run track together. I got injured 3 track meets in, but we did run track for a while. Tell me about your time at Carleton, because Carleton is a smaller school. Pretty much everybody knows each other.
Right.
And now you are on the verge of becoming the next mayor of Carnegie. Walk me through what Carleton did to get you prepared for that.
Yeah, so, Carleton, it's a smaller school. It maybe doesn't have, and because of that, it doesn't have as many opportunities as like a bigger school or wealthier school like Chartiers Valley. So, the kind of options you have are a bit more limited. But when it comes to the education, I feel like I had a good time. I had some great teachers, some great math and social studies teachers. I feel like I learned a lot. I also enjoy, learning about government and politics and history and economics. So, having that kind of foundation really set me up well for to then go to college. I went to IUP for college. I studied history and political science and economics there. So, and then when it comes to being small at Carleton, you also have a lot more opportunity to play sports, So if I went to a bigger school, I'm not the most athletic person. I definitely wouldn't have gotten to play as much as I did, because I got to play soccer, football, track, bowling, and I had a good time playing all those sports. So, I think having, a tighter knit group of people can also help out. It's a lot harder to get lost in the crowd, so yeah. Yeah,
no, Carleton is so good about being able to give opportunities, because like at some of these other high schools I've noticed, like you said you played football, if you try for the football, you have to do tryouts for the football team. At Carleton, it's pretty much just sign up and you're in, because of how small the school is.
Yeah. Now, I mean, to get play time, you do have to,
Yeah, to get play time, you have to.
But you can at least be on the team. You can
at least be on the team. You can at least represent Carleton.
Yeah.
We're to green and gold. But I wanted to talk more about some of the teachers, because you brought up a really good point. A lot of the teachers were great mentors throughout Carleton. Who specifically were some of the teachers that you looked up to and you got some good advice from? I feel like this is a nice little transition.
Well, a lot of them. I'll talk about my math classes. So, interestingly, in Carleton, which is 7th through 12th grade, I only had 3 math teachers when, there's obviously a lot more than that. Because 7th and 8th grade, I had Mr. Trombetta.
Oh, okay.
Because he originally taught 8th grade, then he got moved to 7th grade, and then he got moved back to 8th grade for when I moved up in that grade. And then I had Mrs. Parsons for 9th grade, but then I had Mr. Trombetta back again for 10th grade, because then he got moved again. And then 11th and 12th grade, I had Mr. Cozy for Calc and Stats. So I spent a lot of time with those 2 teachers. They're also friends, so got to spend a lot of time with them too. And I just feel like those 2 specifically were, good teachers. They were great at motivating students. You're able to have fun with them. You were able to talk to them like kind of, not like a bit more with an equal relationship. Obviously they're the teacher and I'm the student. So it was a good relationship there. Also, Miss Begg, who I had for, what was it? It was U.S. History 2, A-Push, and then AP Gov. Now, interestingly with Miss Begg, we don't always agree politically, but even then, I still feel like, she taught the classes impartially. I learned a whole lot in those 3 classes. So even though we might have some political disagreements, we could still, engage with each other in class. And she taught me a lot about, government and economics, which set me up for the future.
That's pretty cool. I didn't get the full Miss Big experience as so many did because the year that I had her for Gov and Econ was actually the COVID year.
Oh, yeah.
So we were on Zoom. So her trying to teach on Zoom and us being at home and stuff, it was distracting. So I unfortunately did not get the full Miss Big experience. I wish I did. It's funny that you say that you only had 3 math teachers because every year at Carleton, I had a different math teacher.
Yeah.
7th grade was Istic. 8th grade was Garland. 9th grade was Mallow. 10th was Parson, 11th was Trombetta, and I didn't have any 12th because I already took all 3 maths that I needed to. So I still find that pretty crazy that you had only 3 math teachers.
Well, it's because they kept moving Trombetta around,
Poor Trombetta.
Well, he's I don't think they moved him recently, right? He's still doing 10th and 11th grade.
I think he's still doing 10th and 11th. Shout out to Mr. T, listener to the 2 Jagoffs.
Yeah.
But I find that pretty interesting that a lot of those teachers, you say some of the history teachers as well. Was there any others maybe in the history department that you got to work with?
Yeah, let's see who else we had. We had Mr. Patsko for 7th grade. That was a good time. Ancient history.
Of course. He's retiring. Shout out to Mr. Patsko.
Oh, he's retiring?
He is retiring this year.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Patsko, Carroll, Parson, and Polonis all are on retirement.
Oh, Polonis is finally retiring.
Finally, yeah.
He keeps saying he's going to retire, then he doesn't. But no,
he finally pulled the trigger on it.
Yeah. No, Mr. Patsko was fun. Mr. Colonna in 8th grade was a lot of fun. He apparently went to school with my cousin Fritz.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, because my whole family's from the Carnegie area, so it's all interconnected.
We all know each other.
Yeah. And then Mrs. Foltz was 9th grade for American History 1. That was a good time too.
Foltz was good. Did you ever have a Stagel time at all?
No, I never had Stagel.
Never had Stagel?
Yeah, because he taught the regular history classes, right?
Okay, yeah, you're doing like more of the AP.
Yeah, because I had pre-AP and AP and stuff.
Okay, cool. Stagel's a good one. He's a bit of a goofball. I love Mr. Stagel.
Well, he would sometimes come into Mr. Cozy's class, and then because they were all friends with each other, and then he would he would ask like trivia questions and then hand out Senor Vianis's pesos. Remember those?
I do remember that.
Yeah, that was Vianis's participation credit, and I guess Stagel would just find them around the classroom or the hallways and classrooms, just hand them out to people.
That's hilarious. Stagel's great. At least you didn't have him eating a big bowl of cereal during a lecture one time.
Yeah, no, I did not have that.
Yeah, no. He's talking about John F. Kennedy, and he's sitting there with this big bowl of cereal. He has a half gallon of milk.
Sure.
And some Rice Krispies. I'm like, okay, Mr. Stagel. But he's a great teacher. I love Stagel. So staying on the Carleton topic, you were talking about how involved you were in different sports and different clubs and stuff. Was there any other clubs that you were specifically a part of, or any other parts of Carleton that you volunteered for?
No, it was mainly sports.
Mainly sports? I respect that. What was your favorite?
I'm gonna say, I don't know. I mean, I like soccer. Like if I had the choice of any sport to play, my first pick would probably be soccer, especially since I haven't really gotten to do it since high school.
Of course.
But bowling was a whole lot of fun. That was probably the sport I was best at, to be honest.
They do it down at Noble Manor, right?
Yeah. That's where our bowling alley was. I still bowl sometimes. I'm not, I'm out of practice for any sport I used to play in high school, so not as good as I used to be, but I still have my ball. I like to break it out whenever I go bowling. Track was also fun. Not a huge fan of running, I mean, but it was good competition. I liked, a lot of my friends were also doing track at the same time.
And you said you did a little football too, right?
Yeah, I tried to be a kicker. I did it in 10th grade. I was okay at it. I got better for 11th grade, and then I broke my hip in football practice. So I didn't do it after that. And it still kind of like messes me up a little bit.
If you don't mind me asking, what exactly happened to get the hip injury?
Yeah, so this was a football practice. It was after a soccer tournament, I guess sometime in May or June. So I had kind of messed up my thigh at the soccer tournament. And then in football practice, I was kicking, and I felt my thigh getting tighter and tighter. And I was going to quit, and then I figured I'll kick one more time. And on that last kick, as soon as I followed through, I felt a pop right in the front of my thigh. And that was like one of the most painful experiences I've ever had, to be honest. So I couldn't really walk. I kind of hobbled up, because you know how it's like there's the field and then there's a hill and then it's the school. Yeah. So I kind of hobbled up to the trainer.
Oh,
and then
that's a treacherous climb too.
And then he just gave me a pack of ice, and I hobbled back down and kind of just sat until I got picked up. And then I went to the doctor, and as it turns out, my muscle had separated a piece of bone from my femur.
Oof.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like a huge piece, but it was still painful. And I kind of, the doctor kind of just like sent me away with that. And for the next couple years, because that happened in 2018, next couple years I was kind of just living with it. It would come and go. Like once the pain went away, I could run perfectly fine. But as soon as I would try to kick, that's when the pain would come back at different levels. So whenever I didn't play football after that, but whenever I would play soccer and stuff, it would kind of just like come back as like a pinching pain or like a really like stinging pain. And I only got surgery on it in 2020 during COVID, where they shaved my femur down because it had gotten jagged.
Wow, it got that bad.
Yeah, so since then, I mean, it doesn't really bother me. I have to crack my hip now because it gets tight, but other than that, I'm almost back to full movement. Not quite what it used to be, you know. That's just how sports injuries work, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, there's so many injuries. We recently had a wrestler on, Andrew Palace, and he was talking about how he dislocated his shoulder.
Yeah.
I mean, those sports injuries, man, it just blows my mind hearing those stories. Because, I mean, I've been injured several times. Most of them were just dumb accidents, I'll be honest.
Sure.
But the one that I had was just a sprained ankle from track, and it was because I landed wrong when I was sprinting. And
That's not good.
That's what took me out that year. I was on crutches. It was awful. I don't even think the coach knew my name at that point. That's how little I was actually there at track.
Yeah.
So whenever you mentioned that we ran track together, I was like, you actually remember me. That's crazy. Because
I remember you, yeah.
I barely was there, but that's pretty cool.
Well, you came back for the next year, right?
I did not.
Oh, you didn't?
I came back. Did I? No, I did not.
Well, because I only did it in 11th grade.
You only did in 11th. Okay.
And that would have been your freshman year,
That was
right?
my freshman year, yeah.
Because then next year I was doing it, and we were practicing indoors, and then COVID happened.
You know what? I think I did show for a couple practices indoors.
Yeah.
'Cause I wasn't outside at all. I didn't do any like, track meets or anything. So
Yeah.
I think you're right on that one. But yeah, no, COVID did happen because that shut everything down.
Yeah.
'Cause I was still contemplating on whether or not I want to do it. Speaking of Carlington and kind of transitioning out of it now, you're living in Carnegie still, and you made the decision that shocked many people out there, announcing you were running for mayor.
Yeah.
You're only 23 years old, man.
Sure.
You're 2 years older than me, and I mean, some people has criticized you for it, some people has praised you for it.
Sure.
What initially made that decision for you to run for mayor? Where did that come?
Well, it was a build-up, really, because, you know, I'd been involved in stuff in town. I had volunteered at events like the farmers market, which I'm now running.
Nice.
I was a junior council person for a year where I did a lot of work with the council and other groups in town to try and engage young people in different activities. I interned for the borough to help with their climate action plan. And outside of that, I've been involved in other levels of government. You know, I interned for Anita Kulik. I interned for a congressman in D.C. So, you know, government and public service and politics has been something that I've been interested in for, you know, a long time. And I was thinking about, after graduating college, like running for some kind of office in Carnegie because I think I can do a lot of good work for the town. And I'd been talking to the current mayor, Stacey Riley. I knew she wasn't going to run for re-election because, you know, it's her second term, recently gave birth to 2 young children. So she's not going to run for re-election. I was talking to her about this. I was thinking of maybe running for council or running for mayor. And after talking to her, she thought, you know, it was also a good idea for me to run for mayor. So she decided to endorse me. And that's kind of how it happened.
So getting the endorsement from Stacey Riley, what kind of advice did she give you going into the campaign trail?
Yeah, I mean, you know, everybody likes to give advice. I think the main advice that I got from everybody who had been doing this for longer than I have is to just, you know, get your name out there. Make sure you talk to folks, both on the doors and on the phone and at different events, and just, you know, present yourself in a good way, and people will appreciate it.
Of course, of course. And the reason why I said earlier you were the uncrowned mayor is because you are a Democrat and you ran against Dave Klug.
Sure.
You beat him in that, and you beat him there, and there was no Republican that signed in, but there can still be an independent that can run going into November. So that's why I wanted to mention that you were the uncrowned winner, uncrowned mayor in this case. What exactly was that campaign process like running against a Dave Klug, running for Carnegie? What was the support like?
Well, the beginning of this, you know, I didn't run for mayor kind of just like willy-nilly. It was a serious decision. I talked to my friends and my family about it.
Of course.
And, you know, when you run a campaign, there's a lot of different levels to it. So you got the finance side because we wanted to raise money to spend it. There's the social media side. There's the contacting voters directly. So I wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing. I wanted to make sure I had people helping me who also knew what they were doing. So I thankfully have some campaign experience from college. So I know all the ins and outs, collecting signatures, the campaign finance. My good friend Brian, who I met at college, also has a lot of campaign experience. They've actually worked for Summerlee at, last year for the primary and the general. They worked for Ed Gainey. That didn't work out, but
Wonder why.
Yeah, well, experience is experience. So, I asked Brian to be my campaign manager, and they said yes. So we've put together our plan of how we're going to reach voters, who we're going to reach, and how we're going to shape our messaging to be, resonating with people. So I asked my brother Will, who has worked at in accounting and actuary, to help me with my finances. I went to the Carnegie Democratic Committee. Mm-hmm. I got after they endorsed me, they also agreed to help me reach out to voters. So it's not a small thing. So we put together a list of addresses and voters that we wanted to talk to, assuming that these would be the people most likely to vote in a Democratic primary. I did run in the Democratic primary, and we raised money from family, friends, residents, other elected officials in town. I think we raised around $3,000. Wow. Don't quote me on that. And we spent most of it. So you spend money on stuff like postcards that get mailed out, the literature, like the palm cards that you go door to door with and hand out to people, and yard signs. Obviously, you got to have yard signs when you run for office. So we did all that, all union made. Because I'm, pro-union. I believe in unions.
Love to hear it.
Yep.
Love to hear it. My dad. He's a big union guy. Yep. So we love unions here.
So is my granddad. Yep. And then after that, it's kind of just like spending stuff for fun. So we got buttons. We got little handheld signs that you can have. We got T-shirts.
Oh, cool.
That say Bigham for Mayor on them. And we just hit the ground running. We got the postcards written. We mailed those out to people. I was knocking doors every weekend. Sometimes I had help. Just to get across the finish line, and we were making phone calls throughout the election cycle, and because of that, we talked to around 300 people. I think we were expecting around 800 people to get out and vote, and we talked to around 300 people, which I think is a pretty big proportion. I haven't worked on too many campaigns, but I still feel like that's a pretty good proportion, and the reaction was overwhelmingly positive. Because I know some people were criticizing me for my age, and but a whole lot of people were actually excited about it. There's a lot of young people who recently moved to Carnegie. They want young people in office. Even a lot of older people there, they want younger people in office because, not just in Carnegie, but all over the country, you have a lot of older people who, they run for office. Maybe even when they're young, they run for office, and they just stay in for many, many years. Longer than they maybe should. Not saying this about anybody in Carnegie specifically, but there are a lot of criticisms around Joe Biden and Donald Trump. A lot of members of Congress who are just getting up there in age a lot, and when, not to like be ageist, but it gets to a certain point when you've been in a position for so long, you maybe become stuck in your ways a little bit. You're not really willing to try and do things differently when maybe you should try to do things differently. Because the world is so different than how it was even 10 years ago, So a lot of people were appreciating that I, as a young person, wanted to run. Now, I was helped by the fact that I did have, a lot of experience. It wasn't like I sat on, am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
You can say whatever you want.
It's not like I sat on my ass for, 4 years in college and then decided to run for office. I like I said, I've done work for the borough. I've interned for different legislators at different levels of government, even in D.C. I was in D.C. this last summer. And I've worked for, my school newspaper and a local newspaper covering local government, going to their meetings, covering a lot of, when at the school newspaper, covering a lot of issues in higher education and finances with the state, And because of that, I'm able to talk about issues in town intelligently. And I think people appreciated a young person who has experience and can maybe, get some stuff done.
I love that, man. I love to hear that. So you bring up a really good point. I kind of want to transition to that. But before I get to that point, on the whole Dave Klug versus Sam Bigham, You both are Democrats. You both are running. I feel like, and this is just coming from my personal opinion, the main reason that you got pushed so far over the top with it is because you were putting yourself out there, like you mentioned. You made the phone calls. You knocked on people's doors. And this is not something just for like running for mayor. This is running for any kind of office.
Yeah.
You need to gain the trust of voters.
Sure.
You need to be able to reach out and say, hey, listen, I'm here to help you. I'm willing to work with you. I'm willing to do what it takes to make sure that you are safe and you are happy. And that's exactly what you did. And this is no disrespect to Klug. I don't know the guy. Don't even know what he looks like.
Sure.
But outside of seeing a couple of yard signs on maybe 6th or 7th Avenue, I have never seen or heard from him. I've seen your campaign messages. I've seen your campaign videos. And everybody has their agreements. Everybody has their disagreements. But something I'm going to give you kudos to is your ability to be willing to reach out.
Yeah.
Your ability to be able to reach out to others. And I guess a follow-up question to that is, why do you think others, not Dave specifically, but why do other politicians not want to reach out like you did?
Well, the reason I was doing that, obviously, I like talking to people. I want to get to know the town that I want to represent.
Of course.
That's the one side of it. The other side is, you have to do that if you want to win. You can't ask somebody for their vote if you're not even willing to talk to them, get to know them, what they care about, and want to meet them. And, some people, when they decide to run for office, they might not appreciate everything that goes into that. For other politicians who have maybe been around for a lot longer, it gets to a point where you've been in office for so long, you probably feel like you don't need to do anything. And this happens at every, level. There's, members of borough council all over the county who, they just run for re-election. They put their name on the ballot. They never had to do anything before because they never really had an opponent. Suddenly someone decides to run against them. They still don't do anything about it. And then they lose because their opponent was going out and knocking on doors. That's actually how Stacy, the current mayor, was first elected to council. She ran against an older incumbent in, I guess it was 2015. And he didn't campaign because he felt like he didn't have to. Stacy campaigned a lot, talked to a whole lot of people, and she beat him.
Of course.
Because, if you want someone's vote, you have to be able to talk to them.
Outside of age, 23 years old, again, probably going to be one of the youngest mayors out there if you actually do get elected.
Yeah.
We've seen the Jack Kabistics of the world. We've seen the Stacey Rileys of the world. Now we're on the verge of seeing the Sam Bighams of the world. What separates you from them?
Well, what separates me? Well, we were each progressively younger than the last one, which is interesting, but
that is true.
Yeah. I'm just in a different generation, the world has changed a whole lot with the internet, social media, even like work culture and just the way the country operates. So I think, because Jack was first elected in 2009, and that was 16 years ago.
16.
So I feel like I'm trying to think about how to say this.
No worries at all.
I'll definitely be doing things differently. I'll definitely be very active in the community, trying to be a leader, trying to push the borough into doing different things. Because there's people want to see different things from their government. People want walkability. They want a Main Street experience. So that's definitely something that I want to push for in Carnegie because we do have some walkability issues. And I think one of the things I'll be able to do very well is promote the town through social media and other ways. Through my campaign, I did a lot of stuff on social media that was able to market myself successfully. And it's because as a younger person, I feel like I just have, a better understanding of how to reach people online because that's how you have to do it these days. So many people spend many hours online. I do. You probably do.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Everybody does. And it doesn't really matter your age because, even older people like to spend a lot of time on social media, on Facebook. Younger people, it's probably more so TikTok and Instagram. But just being able to promote the town in more creative ways using these novel media platforms is something I think I'll be able to do maybe more effectively than someone older.
Absolutely, and it's interesting you bring that up because on our way in here, we were talking about the rise of social media, and with politicians, you need to be able to interact and engage with viewers and podcasters or interviewers, and hate to say it, but that's one of the main reasons why President Trump won. He was willing to go on any podcast, any show, any YouTube channel. He did Theo Vaughn. So that just shows that he was willing to do it. And politics aside, that's what won him the election, or at least got him closer to winning it. So I
It was a
find
big reason, yeah.
it's a main reason for it. Give kudos to Barron, I guess, on because apparently he was the one behind the scenes orchestrating that.
Yeah.
But with your case, it's awesome because you're in that generation where you already understand the logistics of technology. You understand the logistics of social media and how to utilize it properly to your full stability.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to the age thing here for a second, because again, this has been something that's central around your entire campaign.
Sure.
And you mentioned earlier about how President Trump and President Biden, it's been crucial to them and crucial to other, I guess, politicians out there. Do you believe now we're in that new wave where we should start letting some younger politicians finally take the ropes? Because for the longest time, people debated that it was immature to let younger people run for office. Now we're kind of starting to see a new phase of a lot of younger people take over. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so there's definitely a whole lot of younger people running for office. You might be seeing ads on Instagram about it. I know I am. I think it's Nancy Pelosi is getting a young person running against her. David Hogg, who was in the DNC but has now recently stepped aside, announced he was going to spend $20 million unseating, I think he was saying older incumbents, but maybe he was just saying ineffective incumbents. So there is definitely a lot of people all over the country, a lot of younger people who are stepping up and running for office. And this isn't something new, this has been building up for a long time because obviously there's nothing, institutional preventing a young person from running for office. It's more of a resource thing. So for a young person to run against an older, very well-established, well-funded incumbent, it takes a lot of work, and it's not very easy. It's usually an upset. This hasn't happened very often. AOC famously unseated someone who was, I guess, the second highest ranking Democrat in Congress by the time that she was running. I think it's time for a change. We have a lot of older people in office, getting up there in age 70, 80. Some people even try to stay in until they're 90.
Ridiculous.
And I just think at some point it's time to let go. Now, on the one hand, I do understand wanting to stay in office because the work that you're doing, it's not very it's stressful, but it's not very laborious. So when you're older, it's not like you can't do the job, And I think on some level, they understand that if they were to retire, it would be a very difficult transition from working in Congress, for example, to them being retired, because you go from being very important, taking a lot of meetings, casting votes that, are very important to the country and to your constituents and people and millions of people to, kind of being irrelevant in a way. And that's a difficult transition. And I understand that. And that's probably one of the big motivating reasons why a whole lot of older people don't step aside.
Right.
But at the same time, you have to understand that you can't expect to work in this job until you die. I don't know why you would want to do that. I wouldn't. Like Strom Thurmond, who was in the Senate until he was 100 and had to be, he was, I don't want to be mean about this. Well, it is Strom Thurmond, so maybe I can be a little mean. But he had to be taken out on a wheelchair to cast votes. And it's like, why would you want to be in that position for that long? Because, and here's the other thing, when you're getting up there in age, I'm trying to do this politically, you're more likely to experience sickness and illness, which can be very damaging to you as a person. For certain people, when you're up there in age, it could take one fall and you're not the person you were before that fall, or you might be fine when you run for re-election for the Senate, but the term is 6 years. So you might be 82 running for re-election for a 6-year term, but by the time you're 85, your health can take a sharp downturn. And this isn't necessarily only for older politicians. Younger people, by young I mean like in their 50s, could suffer from a stroke that could do a lot of personal damage to you. And it's dangerous to do that because, well, I mean, like the Democrats have noticed this because they had 3 members of Congress who recently won re-election who have since passed away for age-related illnesses. And in this day and age, when there's a lot of, big debates going on, potentially cutting people off from Medicare and Medicaid and SNAP, which could, it could kill people. I think it's important to understand that we need the most effective person in these offices. And if you, for example, have cancer, maybe you shouldn't run for re-election. Maybe it's time for younger people. It doesn't have to be like 25-year-olds running, because we have 70 and 80-year-olds. I think having 30, 40, and 50-year-olds running to replace them would be better, but that's just me.
Of course, and it feels like there's not enough people in their 40s and 50s that's out there running. It feels like there's a big age gap. There's a lot of 20-year-olds that's like starting to try and run. Of course, like there's certain age limits where you have to be 25 with certain offices.
Yeah.
But in like DC especially, it's all 60, 70, 80. I find that fascinating. And I find it fascinating that someone like yourself who's 23 years old wants to take that road and be like, you know what? Let me try and put myself in office and try and bring, I guess, a younger sense, a newer sense to Carnegie and to the world of politics. A lot of people, though, out there is worried about that because obviously with youth comes inexperience.
Sure.
So what would your message be to voters about your age?
Well, I honestly think it's an asset, it's worth remembering this is Carnegie, which is, it's a small borough. So it's not like I'm running for mayor of the city of Pittsburgh where, maybe you do want a lot more experience than what I have. The job of a mayor of a borough is a lot more informal. The only institutional job you have is managing the police department. And I have a good relationship with the chief.
Shout out to Jeff.
Shout out to, Chief Kennedy. Other than that, you get a tie-breaking vote on council. But beyond that, it's really what you make of it. So you have to be able to work with people both on council and in the police and in the administration and in DPW, but also work with different, people in the community, whether that's in the school, the businesses, the athletics, the Community Development Corporation. It's really more of an informal role. I would like to call it a public advocate role because your job really is to promote Carnegie, bring people together on different projects, and be a leader in a more informal way because you don't have a lot of institutional power. So I think being a young person, I can put more energy towards this. I have a lot more time on my hands. I don't have kids.
Yeah.
So I don't have anyone I need to take care of. So I have more time that I can put towards this kind of stuff. And I also have a borough council that I'm excited to work with. Every one of them is older than me at varying levels. And I think it's good to have different perspectives. It's not like I want to get rid of all old people anywhere in government. I just think it's important to have a balance of young, old, and in between at all levels of government, really.
Of course, you talked about in your campaign messages as well about your climate action plan, several other key policies you wanted to, I guess, work with the borough council. What is the first thing that you want to work on once you get elected mayor? Or like, what is like a project or something that you're looking forward to getting your hands on?
The first thing, well, there's a lot of things that we have to do, keep our Main Street alive, upgrade our infrastructure to be more walkable, and make sure we're resilient both in terms of severe weather caused by climate change and other associated disasters, and also try to lower our emissions. So, the first thing. I guess the first thing would just be working with the businesses, make sure they're supported, which I'm already doing since I'm the director of the Community Development Corporation in town. So just making sure we have a vibrant Main Street, that we have a sense of community in town, that we have events to bring people into Main Street to support our businesses. And, I think building a sense of community is definitely one of the things I want to work on because unfortunately in this day and age, we have all these computers and the internet. There's a computer right there.
There is.
We both have computers in our pockets with access to the internet.
Got a little laptop over there too.
Laptop right there. For as good as that is when it comes to, connecting with people, making stuff like this possible, it also puts people into different silos. And unfortunately, it makes it pretty easy to, focus on stuff that's going on in your phone or your computer instead of living out in the real world. Not to sound like, I don't want to make it sound like all technology is bad, like a Luddite, but I think you have to have a balance. And unfortunately, well, in the past, people were a lot more well connected with their neighbors and their community, the local business owners, the teachers and stuff. And that was because you kind of had to, nowadays you have all these different options of things you can do. You could live your whole life at a computer desk, and you'll be able to talk to people, you'll be able to entertain yourself, and you'll be able to get food delivered to you. Not to knock that kind of lifestyle. But I think a lot of people would benefit from being more active in their community. So I want to make sure we have a lot of events going on. I want to bring all our different community groups together, make sure we're working together. We have a school, we have multiple nonprofits, multiple religious organizations of different faiths, and we have a lot of people. And I just want to rebuild a sense of community that I think we're losing, not just in Carnegie. It's all over the country. I mean, there was a book that came out, I think even before 2000, called Bowling Alone. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I've not.
Well, the gist of the book is that, and this was before the internet became big, the gist of the book was that Americans are participating in social organizations less and less, starting back, decades before this book was written. And he's saying, like, church membership is down, whatever you think about, whether you practice religion or not. Church membership is down. Those were big community centers, not just to bring people together in a room for, a couple hours, and practice their faith, but also as a way to plan events. There's not as many church fairs as there used to be. People don't join bowling leagues as much as they used to. Whether or not you like bowling, it's a way to socialize with people.
It is.
And people spend more time at home. And it's only really gotten worse since this book was written, because now surveys are saying that people have fewer and fewer connections and fewer strong connections.
I hate to be that
among
guy.
the ones they do.
Feels like the pandemic also did a big part in
and
that.
And the pandemic supercharged it. The pandemic supercharged a lot of trends that were already happening, and one of which was people becoming lonelier. So I think it's getting better. I think, people are kind of like yearning for, that kind of community, that sense of community. So having events, bringing people together, that's something I want to work on first. That would also probably be the easiest thing I can work on, because I don't need a vote to do that. I can just do that as mayor. And that's the thing about being mayor, is that, when you can say you're the mayor of Carnegie, it gives you the ability to do things that you couldn't do as just a normal resident.
So you're talking about some of the events that takes place, and there's already been several that's there, like the 5K. That's a big one. There's the Carnegie Crawl, which they do almost every Friday. I want to know...
Well, every second Friday.
Every second Friday.
For 6 months, until October.
Thank you, yeah. So what other events are you looking for? Like, what are some of your favorite events that are already established, and are there maybe events that's in the works right now?
Yeah, so...
Like to share?
Well, we got the Crawl. That's every second Friday. That's planned by the Community Development Corporation, which I'm the director of, so I do a lot of the planning for that. And that's a good way to bring people into the main street. We have bands, food trucks, vendors. The businesses stay open later. So, it's just a good way to bring people together out in the open. Because even if, you're not going to meet someone new, it's still nice to just exist out in the open with other people. We also have the farmers market, which is starting up in July. That's almost every Sunday until the middle of September. And everybody knows what a farmers market is. But it's the same kind of deal. And we have different organizations doing different events. We have the 5K. The churches, the Ukrainian church does a whole lot because they have a big community. So I would want to support that. And just doing more. We have a haunted trail. We have the Halloween parade. I think there's definitely room, though. I've been talking to one of the new folks running for council. They had mentioned having like outdoor movie nights. Could be something. I know there's like some copyright issues with that, unfortunately, but we can work it out. We have a main street, we have a park, we have a creek. There's a whole lot that we can do just to have some open air outdoor activities that anybody can enjoy.
Of course. So with all the plans that you have going in the office, with all the plans that you've established throughout the campaign trail, where do you personally see Carnegie in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, so that would be at the end of my first term. Well, let's see here. So hopefully we have a whole lot of events going on, that not just for our residents, but to bring people into town. I want people from all over the county talking about Carnegie, about all the cool stuff we have going on. Our restaurants, our shops, maybe even an artistic scene if we could get that going. So I want that. I want to improve our infrastructure. There were some plans that were in the works before COVID. COVID kind of put a block on that. you know. But we're working on different things, trying to expand the Panhandle Trail from Collier to Carnegie, because having a trail running through your town would be huge. It brings in, more people to town. Then they want to check out what's in town. They just walked for however many miles. Now they want to eat something, and then hopefully even connecting that to the trails in Crafton and Thornburg, just to improve that connection even more. Doing more to improve the walkability, because we really have two main streets. Unfortunately, we have an East Main Street and a West Main Street, and you're walking along it, and you cross the bridge going west, and you come up on Jefferson Street, which is like 4 or 5 lanes. It's not really an easy crosswalk.
Nope.
And then you cross it, and then you're in West Main Street, and there are businesses on both sides of that. So one of the things I really want to do is improve the walkability through Jefferson Street, either by shrinking the road, definitely by improving the crosswalk, and just having more of a connection between these two main streets, because we got a lot of, good restaurants on West Main Street. There's definitely opportunity for more commercial space, not just on West Main Street, but throughout that entire neighborhood, which kind of has an outdated term. It's called Irish Town. It's kind of like from West Main Street to the creek there. But there's definitely an opportunity to build more housing and commercial areas in that neighborhood. That's definitely something I want to focus on. Improving the vacancy. I think about a quarter of our storefronts are vacant. So just doing more to encourage people to open up businesses here. And one of the ways we do that is through events and promoting and marketing Carnegie, to make people want to open their stores here, and then doing more to, support sustainability. We have a great shade tree commission that I want to work with, to plant even more trees, get a community garden started up, which we're working on, and improving the green space, making maybe having a little less grass, some more native plants. That's something I would want to encourage, because we have grass lawns everywhere. It's not the best for wildlife and sustainability and habitats. Definitely want to encourage the planting of native wildlife. And this is something that has been going on actually at the farmers market, where we get a grant every year to hand out native nectars to support the monarch butterfly.
Okay, that's cool.
Which is something I also want to continue. Stacey Riley, the current mayor, had made a mayor's monarch pledge to support the monarch butterfly and conserve it. So I definitely want to continue stuff like that.
That's cool. That's awesome. So your plan essentially the next 5 years, make Carnegie better. Continue to improve
Yep.
Carnegie.
Do what we're doing well.
Adapt
what we're not doing too well. Improve the infrastructure, improve the marketing, get people talking about Carnegie.
Love to see that, man. Love to see that. And it seems like that over the last couple months, you've really had some pretty strong endorsements coming your way and helping out. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Anita Kulik also send some love your way as well?
Yeah, it was, Mayor Riley, Representative Anita Kulik, Pat Katina, who is our county councilman and the president of county council, and also a former president of the Carnegie Borough Council. And most of the borough council did outright endorse me too. And that's because, I've done work in the borough. I actually interned for Anita. And because they know me, they trust me, they endorsed me. And it's going to, an endorsement helped me win, obviously, but it's also good to have those relationships as mayor, because, in government, it's all about working across different levels of government, different businesses, different communities. It's good to have connections, because, if we need something from the state, I can talk to Anita about that. If we need something from the county, I can talk to Pat. If I need to work with the borough council, I already have that prior relationship. So I'm already starting at a better position than if I had just done this without having done anything in Carnegie before.
That's great to say. And it's funny that you say that, because in politics, I'm going to compare it to sports real quick.
Sure.
Politics is more of your cup of tea. Sports is more my cup of tea. Networking and connections is the strongest thing that you can have. And honestly, you can say that about almost any career, because in the sports world, you need to be able to know the other broadcasters, athletes, reporters, media personalities. With your case, you need to be able to work with the borough council, mayors, all different kind of people. So I feel like that point that you brought up is a really strong one. And Kulik as well, and Representative Kulik, she's going to actually be coming on the podcast in the coming weeks as well. So I'm definitely going to be really excited to have a conversation with her as well. So I'm glad you brought her
You
up.
could say hi to her for me.
I will definitely say hi to her. I think it's either next week or the week after. I'll have to check the schedule.
Yeah.
But she's coming on very soon as well.
Well, yeah, it's true with everything, right? You have to know people if you want to, you can't there's very few professions where you can do everything by yourself.
No, exactly. And you got to be willing to talk and reach out. I feel like
Yeah.
communication is so strong in today's society. And I feel like the phones in our pockets is honestly the thing that's kind of been a detriment to that, because too many people are just want to send a text
Yep.
or a quick phone call. I'm like, no, you got to actually get out there, shake hands, and say, hey, I'm Austin. This is Sam. This
Yep.
is what we want to do.
Yeah.
And that's honestly how it works.
Yeah. I think we're getting back to it, you know.
I think we are too.
You know, we kind of lost going out to get lunch or coffee with somebody and have a conversation, but maybe we're getting back to it.
I feel like we're on the slow uprise. There
Yeah.
was a significant rise, then a massive slope. We're starting to climb up the ladder slowly but surely.
Hopefully, yeah.
It's like Candyland. It's up and down, chutes and ladders. Shouldn't have said that while you're drinking. My apologies. It's like Candyland.
Yeah.
So this podcast is called Two Jagoffs, Sam.
Right.
There is another Jagoff.
Okay.
His name's Lucas Coons.
Okay.
He could not be here, unfortunately.
Sure.
Just graduated high school recently, but he did want me to ask a question on behalf of him, and this is a question we ask practically every guest here. The viewers out there already know what I'm about to ask, and that is, what is your go-to restaurant, your favorite place to grab a meal? And if we want to keep it Carnegie-based, we can, or we can open it up just in general.
Yeah.
Totally your discretionary. What is your favorite restaurant and why?
Favorite restaurant? Well, Carnegie's got a lot of great restaurants, as you
do.
know. A lot of great restaurants in the area, but if I had to pick a Carnegie restaurant, I could do a political thing and just start naming off a bunch of restaurants.
You can. Name them
You
all.
know? Well, I like El Pollon. Mexican food is my favorite food, by the way, but
Okay.
El Pollon is similar. It's Peruvian. They've got some great rotisserie chickens, and I love their black beans and their rice and their sides. So I love to go there for dinner. Bob's Diner has some great breakfast. You know, I love their pancakes. You get big pancake with your griddle breakfast, you know, sausage, eggs, bacon.
Okay.
Dagny's is always good for lunch.
Shout out to Dagny's.
Shout out to Dagny's. Carnegie Coffee Company. My girlfriend loves the coffee company. I'm not much of a coffee drinker, but you know, I do like a lot of their the meals that they have. They got breakfast bowls, and they have this avocado toast with like roasted tomato.
Ooh.
That is really good.
Okay.
Sunset and Slice, great pizza places. Rhea's, also a great pizza place.
I would argue that Sunset is the best pizza I've had.
Well, they're all. I love them all. I love all of them, right?
Well, you got to say that, but I can say that I love Sunset.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, Slice is good. Ray is a little iffy sometimes for me, but I do love Sunset Pizza. It is phenomenal.
Well, they
Great
do.
down
They all do things well differently. You know, like Rhea's has got some good sandwiches.
there. Okay, I never tried there, so I can't.
Sunset and Slice maybe have some good pizza. What's nice about Sunset though is how cheap their wings are.
They are cheap.
You know, and it's still good too. You know, it's not like cheap wings.
One
Like
of
you
my-
get the real bone-in wings. I think you maybe get 6 for $7, which I think is a lot cheaper than most other places.
That's a steal.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it is.
Shout out to Sunset. Okay.
Yeah. What else do we have? Don Don's and Kasai. You know, classic Chinese and Japanese food there. We actually have a new Korean barbecue place that opened up on West Main Street. Haven't had the chance to go there yet, but definitely want to try it. Cafe Deli, if you want some Indian food. That's actually attached to the community center.
Mm.
Hold on, there's more places.
There's actually one that you're missing. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it's actually
Wait.
Lucas's mom and grandma owns the place.
Okay, well, I'm getting there. There's Leo
You're getting
Greta.
Leo Greta. Okay.
Haven't had the chance to go there yet. A little outside my price range at the moment.
I've been there once. It's good.
Oh, I believe it. It's just
It's good.
you know, being mayor doesn't pay enough to eat at Leo Greta regularly.
Want to hear a funny story about Leo Greta real quick?
Sure.
I worked there for a day.
A day.
A day. I worked there.
You worked there for a day. What happened?
I got a big opportunity at Carlington to do stats and travel with the basketball team. And of course, all the days that I was traveling was the days I was supposed to work at Leo Greta. So
Oh, there you go.
the next day I was just like, hey guys, I got this big opportunity. It's for my career because I'm getting into sports. And they were like, all right, just give me your shirts. Good luck.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, cool. But I was there for a day. And I
There-
will say
there for a
the
day.
pasta is to die for. It is good.
Oh, I believe it.
Nothing but nice things to say.
We've got Duran's.
Okay.
You know, my dad likes to go there a lot. You know, it's a nice dive bar. Good food, good people.
Mm-hmm.
What else do we have? NASCAR's has been gone for a while, but I think the owner of Slice is going to turn that into an Italian place soon.
Ooh. We need more Italian places.
Well, we already have 2 plus 3 pizza places.
Now, why not?
Well,
more?
there's Portofino's, but I haven't been in Portofino's
I haven't
because
even-
they moved. Anytime I go down there, the door's locked though.
Aren't they the ones that's over like by the elementary school? Or is that The other
No,
place
no,
I'm
no.
thinking of? I'm getting mixed up.
Well, there is a Portofino's in Crafton, but
Okay,
this is the Portofino's in Carnegie. I would like to go down there. I just can't figure out when they're open. What else do we have? We got West Main Pub. I don't know if they have food though. I think that might just be a bar.
I've never been there now.
Apis is nice. They've got mead and wine. I don't know how much beer they have, but they mainly do mead and wine. And they do have a kitchen, but every Friday they have a food truck out there. That's cool. So when there's a food truck, the kitchen's closed, obviously. And David can get a lot of good food trucks. He gets Pittsburgh Tortoise. Yeah. This is an aside. I love Pittsburgh Tortoise. I like Mexican food, and this is like Mexican-inspired street food
So
where you can get like sandwiches and the tortilla chips and stuff.
Well, that's your go-to then.
Well,
That might be your go-to.
well, it's not there all the time.
If it was.
Well, they're going to be at the this crawl actually, which is tomorrow. So
Okay.
I'm definitely going to get my sandwich there. Riley's unfortunately burned down in November.
I was just about to bring that up. It's off.
Well,
I do love Riley's.
We can go back to it. I also like Riley's. It was a nice atmosphere. Good food.
Great food.
What else? I'm definitely missing some, aren't I?
Oh yeah. There's one that I'm thinking of, but there's probably a couple others.
In Carnegie. Well,
Here's the thing with Carnegie though, it's so nice. There's so many different restaurants out there you can choose from. So it's
yeah.
hard to remember them all.
There's Afghan Kebab House. If you want like
There's another diner out there as well.
Afghan style kebabs, I'll get there.
You'll get there.
I just remembered. Afghan is nice, especially if you like spicy food. There's Barb's Country Junction.
There it is.
Also have good breakfast.
Love Barb.
But they're only open until 2, right?
Yes, they're only open until 2.
Yeah, so I can't always go
They're
there.
noon on Saturdays, I think.
Yeah, so I can't always make it out there if I want, to grab something. But
Well, if you are there, you can bother Lucas for me. Just request for Lucas and then give him a hard time.
I may have seen Lucas down there actually.
Yeah.
When was the last time I was down there? I know I got food there within. I can't, you can't eat out all the time, obviously, especially with the mayor's salary. Doesn't pay enough, but yeah, we've got some good restaurants. Sometimes people complain about the lack of restaurants, and obviously, Riley's burned down. The lot across the street hasn't had anything in there for 6 years, so we don't have as many restaurants as we could have. But we still have a lot of restaurants, and we have a lot of diverse restaurants. There's a lot of pizza and Italian, but outside there's also the Blaze too at 131.
Oh yeah, the Blaze. Yep.
But there's a lot of diversity.
Okay. What's the go-to, I guess, food then in general? I mean, it doesn't have to be from these places specifically.
Sure,
You
sure.
said you're a big Mexican food
I do
guy.
love Mexican
We're
food.
foodies here on Two Jagoffs.
Well,
sports and food.
I do love Mexican food. There's a lot of good Mexican places in the county. There's El Paso I guess it's in Collier Township, right?
Yeah, I guess technically called.
Yeah, there's El Campesino, which I think is also in Collier Township. I like El Paso a little bit more. El Paso I've been going to since I was a kid. They've got, I love their salsa. One of the first things you judge a Mexican restaurant is the chips and salsa.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got the best chips and salsa I've ever had. Totopo in Mount Lebanon, they're also very good. They've got great rice. Outside of that, I don't know. I mean, like when I find a restaurant I kind of just go there. I like Moe's. If I want something quick, I think it's better than Chipotle actually.
Oh, you're one of those guys.
I do,
I guess we're sparking that.
Not only do I think it tastes better, first of all, but you get free chips and salsa.
That is true.
You don't get that at Chipotle.
You can't beat that Chipotle, but I don't know, man. The Chipotle. Are you one of those guys that believe the Chipotle portions are unfair, or do you think that they're?
Well, I don't think about that. It's more so like a taste thing.
It's a taste thing. Okay,
and Moe's is a little bit cheaper too.
That's fair. You bring up really good points, but I'm not gonna lie. My taste buds still lean more towards the Chipotle. That's probably what I'm gonna get after this.
Yeah.
But Moe's is good. I just had it with my dad recently. Oh God.
Yeah.
Flinging the headphones. Moe's is good, but Chipotle, I don't know, man. That might be the first disagreement of the episode. I got Chipotle.
Hey,
that's an A tier for me.
Sure.
If we're doing a tier list, Moe's, I'll give it B tier.
Sure.
I'll give it B tier.
Indiana, PA, where I went to college, also has a lot of good restaurants. Amazingly, they have 3 Mexican restaurants.
Ooh.
In that small borough in that rural county, and they're all pretty good. You got El Tesoro, Casa Jalisco, and Tres Amigos. I would probably go Casa Jalisco, Tres Amigos, and then El Tesoro. But Casa Jalisco is the best, but it's about $5 more expensive compared to El Tesoro. So if I wanted something cheap, I would have gone to El Tesoro. if I want something that tastes a lot better. And I like El Tesoro. Not to say it's bad. I'm not a very picky person. I will probably eat almost anything as long as it's warm and seasoned.
It gotta be seasoned.
Indiana also has one of the best sandwich shops in the area, 9th Street Deli. Mm-hmm. I love it there. You get great portions. You can get like a half-inch or like a half-sized Italian sub, and they'll pack the meat on there, and you'll still have a bunch of lettuce and tomato and banana peppers. We also have good sandwich shops too in Pittsburgh. There's that one place you can get the Battleship from, right? I forget the name of it. But I do like getting the Battleship. I think I've gotten it twice. Indiana also has a really good Pan Asia cafe, which is really good. I would get poke bowls there.
So you're a big foodie then too.
I love food, but I don't know. I don't always go to different restaurants because once I find a restaurant I like, I kind of just stick there, and I kind of order the same thing all the time.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I think I got the same Chipotle bowl for like 5 years straight. So
yeah,
there's no shame in that.
But sometimes I like some classic bar food.
Bar food's good. They
like
got
Duran's.
I'll give a good place for you real quick. Home Run Harry's over in Station Square. I don't know if you've ever been there or not.
I haven't. I haven't. But we got Duran's. We got Fired Up, which is right on Noblestown Road too.
Oh yeah.
Down the road from Carnegie. I also play poker there sometimes.
Okay. Little poker here or there. Who doesn't love some poker?
We don't bet money though. I should probably say that. It's all for fun. Chips. No money being bet.
No money being bet.
It's all for fun. Yeah.
Maybe you guys can bet the next Mexican meal. Who buys the next Mexican food for you guys?
Maybe.
You guys can bet that. Bet some salsa and chips.
I don't know
if you're allowed to do that.
I don't think we can bet anything.
You can't bet anything? Not even chips?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with the law. I think you have to be in a casino.
Dang. I mean, I'd probably bet some chips.
Have you been to, how often do you go to casino?
I've been to 2 different casinos. I've been to the one out in Washington, PA once, and I've been to Rivers once.
Yeah. I've only gambled at Rivers once, but I've been, and I lost all the money.
You lost all the money?
Yeah, I think I took out 150 and I lost it all. But at the racetrack and casino in Washington.
That's the one I went to. Yeah, that's it.
I've been there once. I think I also lost my money. But in D.C., I went to a casino with my friend who came up to visit, and I think I made my money back. And the only other casino I've been to was one on the Canadian side of Niagara Falls, where I maybe won back $40 American.
Okay. It's something. Hey, you won something back.
Yeah, well, that was fun because I kept getting blackjack for whatever reason. So I kept getting my money back, even though I was just making like the minimum bet. I think they do that to like, well, I don't know if they can fix cards. I probably shouldn't say that. I don't know. But
they probably do.
I would think they would do that because then you keep betting and then you go to the roulette table and bet it all on something and lose it all.
Yeah. No, they definitely do that. Same thing with lottery tickets. They're just trying to get you to buy more.
Well, they wouldn't be doing it if they weren't making money off of it.
Exactly. They have to make some sort of profit off of it.
Yeah.
Rivers is nice, though. It's right in the city. It's a nice little place. I mean, I think I lost at the racetrack one, but I think I won back 2 something. I think it was 240, 230.
Yeah, I don't know. Whenever I go to casino, I'm like, I'm mentally preparing myself that I'm probably not going to make this money back. Yeah. It's just there to play cards, Just
have some fun. Why not? Lay back, get a beer, have some fun. Why not?
Yeah. Do you do that sports betting on your phone?
I mean, I probably shouldn't be saying that either in my career. But I mean, I do a little bit of sports betting here or there. I won big on my Super Bowl block this year.
Oh, there you go.
I won big.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends who do it, and they just keep telling me how they lose their money. So
let's just say this, Sam. It's been 7 years straight of me losing money. This is my first year I finally started making some of that back.
There you go.
So it pays off in the long run.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I probably don't ever see myself doing that. At least not on my phone. When I go to the casino, it's nice because like I know I'm not going to like blow too much money on it. But if it's on my phone, I'm worried like I'll just keep like, because all you have to do is press a button. Yeah. And
be careful with it.
Yeah. I'm a cheap person. I don't like spending money. Which is good for a government official.
It is good for a government official if you think about it. It's good for a government. Not a foodie though, because if you want to spend a lunch.
Well, the one thing I do waste money on is going out to eat. Yeah. That's like the one thing,
I probably eat out 4 to 5 days a week, unfortunately now. I don't know how with my college budget, but I'm on the road all the time. So you kind of got to get out home to make something.
Yeah. I mean, my girlfriend and I, we try to, we try to prepare food at home. Fair. Try to eat healthy, cook up some vegetables. But sometimes, Austin, we just both give each other the same look and we decide we're going to go out to eat somewhere.
I mean, we gotta do, man.
Yeah, it's getting expensive though.
It's too expensive.
Yeah.
I want to end off today's episode asking you one last question.
Mm-hmm.
And this might be the most political question you've ever been asked in your
Okay.
entire life.
Sure.
Want you to just take a second to mentally prepare yourself.
Okay.
Take a good look at me real quick. And do you see a resemblance of President John F. Kennedy? I'm going to pull up a picture. This has been a running joke now that's been going on the podcast for about almost a year now. My two good friends, Lucas and Kevin, they continue to call me JFK. They say I look like him. I embody him. I resemble him.
Yeah.
I like JFK. He's one of my favorite presidents of all time. I
Yeah.
love the Kennedy family. Not really what they're doing now, but I love the Kennedy family in the past.
That's just one
Kennedy.
One bad apple, right?
One bad apple. I mean, one bad apple. I'm trying to pull up a picture of me in a suit. Here it is. The viewers already have seen this picture. Do you see a JFK resemblance? Have the phone, zoom in, do whatever you got to do.
Well, I think...
And you could be honest. You could be 100% honest.
Well, here's the interesting thing about John F. Kennedy. So when you look at a picture of him, his face is very pudgy and swollen because there was something he had done or some kind of medication he was on where I think he had a war injury that had messed up his face. So he, if that hadn't happened, would look a lot skinnier in his face, kind of like Robert F. Kennedy. So I would say, yeah, probably more so Robert F. Kennedy, but
great.
Because you have not his dad, not the son.
Not the son.
But if JFK didn't have that was making his face puff up, you probably would look a lot more like, because you have a skinnier face. If you look up a young picture of John F. Kennedy, you would probably look a lot more like him.
Yeah. Okay, so you see the resemblance.
Yeah, I do.
So I'm not beating the JFK allegations?
No, probably not.
Damn. Okay.
Well, hey, I mean, he was attractive, right?
I mean, he pulled Marilyn Monroe and who else? Jackie Kennedy at one point. So
yeah,
Jackie Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe. I mean, if he could pull that.
Well, he and many more.
And many more. Maybe it's not a bad thing being called JFK.
No, I don't think so. I mean, a lot of people, especially if you're Catholic, if there's two portraits you're going to have, it's going to be JFK and the Pope, whoever the current Pope is, especially if you're Irish Catholic.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
So he's, very well regarded.
Well, Sam, I do want to thank you again so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We got a little over an hour today, talked about some of your politics and what you plan on doing going in the office, but I'm going to give you the floor for a second. You and the viewers, do you have any final words for them?
I won, like Austin said, I won the primary, which is on May 20th. That's like the first election every year, but the main election is November 4th. Every year, first Tuesday, or I think, first Tuesday of the month. And I would just say, make sure you get out and vote. Voting is one of the most important things you can do, especially in a democracy. You have the opportunity to pick your leaders, same as anyone else. You all get one vote to pick the people you want in charge. And even if you don't always agree with somebody 100% of the time, you should still try to make an effort to, learn about the different candidates in whatever your locality is, figure out who the best option is, and vote for the person that you want to vote for. And if you don't like any of them, I would still say get out and vote. There's a lot of offices up. I'm sure there's someone you're comfortable voting for. And if there isn't, you can always write in a name. I personally believe that going out and voting, even if you're not going to vote for anybody on the ballot, is a whole lot better than staying home, right? Because if you don't vote, that tells elected officials and politicians that they can keep doing what they're doing, even if you don't approve of it. But if they see a whole lot of people voting for someone other than them, then that might, encourage them to do things a little bit differently. So, we got the general election, November 4th. Make sure you get out and vote.
Great message, Sam. Great message. Well, thank you again so much for coming on, taking the time out of your day to do this and travel down to Point Park University. I truly appreciate it.
It was a long 15-minute drive.
Long 15-minute drive. It's going to be longer with traffic on the way home.
Yeah.
But thank you all so much, the viewers of Two Jagoffs, for tuning in to yet another episode. Make sure you stay tuned for this Thursday, Lucas Carey's return. So Lucas will be taken back over again. Until next time here on Two Jagoffs, we will see you all in the next one. Peace.